What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're doing well today. Got a new knife review for you. Let's get into it. All right, guys, we have a new model from Molsect here. This one is the Slate. This is a budget affordable variant that's coming in D2 steel, G10 scales with nested steel liners, and it has a reversible fold over deep carry pocket clip, although it is not fully mounted deep carry. It does have several standoffs and it is very well built. Very solid feeling knife for sure. It does look like maybe on the flipper tab they drilled that out for some weight reduction. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's just an aesthetic thing. No filler tab, but I'm okay with that. And you do have some texturing on the G10, though it is not super aggressive. You got the M in the pivot for the Molsect, and it does look like it just takes a standard flathead screw to disassemble, and then the rest are Torx bits. I haven't verified, but I'm looking at these, and I think these are probably T6, and maybe where the biggest one is a T8. So I'm not 100% sure the construction on this one and why they went that way, but it does look like the Phillips head could remove the thumb stud if you wanted to take that off. The action on here is really nice, very well tuned. The detent is a little late on here, and that does require you to kind of get out of the way and then overcome the detent to close it. But honestly, once you get past that detent break, it's very comfortable. This one's a little bit more of a stockier build, so it definitely feels like it has some tactical vibes, though I would say you probably could comfortably carry this as your EDC as is. It has a 50% flat grind, but it does have a fairly thin blade stock with a little swedge. Instead of crowning the spine here, they did a little swedge, and that does add to the aesthetic of it. Does keep it nice and thin, minimizes the resistance when cutting through the material. The factory edge felt okay on the D2. It felt a little bit toothier, and I'm going to be honest with you. On my D2, I do prefer it come a little bit toothy from the factory, because then I can strop it down if I want it to be a little bit more fine edge. But the toothiness is really going to saw through the material very nicely. We went through the cardboard fine, no issues whatsoever. It is a little bit of a thicker geometry because it doesn't have as tall of a flat grind, so you're reaching the maximum thickness a little bit earlier. So you do notice that a little bit while cutting with it, but it did handle the detailed cuts very well, no issues whatsoever. You have good access to the lock bar here with some jimping, so you are able to easily kind of slide that out of the way, and then once you get past the detent break, you can shake it home. That is just one of my little nitpicks here, is I do wish the detent break was a little bit earlier, but I will say I did talk with Molsect a little bit, and they indicated that there are going to be some revisions that they make to a lot of their models, and I'm thinking that I've seen enough feedback on the Molsect knives since I've started researching them to where I see the majority of their models appear to have a very late detent break, so they just need to move that detent up to, I would say, about there. If you can get that detent to be here and not here, which is significantly late, and it makes it a little harder to kind of overcome when you're trying to operate it one-handed. You got a lot of movement that you have to get to in order to close that, and getting it past that point, if you did it, I would say do it right about there. That allows you to get the finger out of the way and very easily operate that one-handed. It does look like maybe there's a ramp. Yeah, you hear that double click? Or maybe I'm just getting past the liner with the detent ball. But you can see, and here I'll show you guys. You can see that detent ball. See if I can find it on the camera. That detent ball is way down in there. So just move that in a little bit. I think that would perfectly cure that, be no issue whatsoever. There's a lot of standoffs here. I think you could probably just eliminate this bottom standoff and this middle standoff, and then you could keep the 2 and the large one, or you could make this a lanyard post. There are some folks out there that do enjoy putting a lanyard on their knife. Those few little fixes, I think, would really fix this one up a ton. Before we get into my final thoughts and impressions, though, let's do some size comparisons to give you an idea just how big or small this knife really is. All right, so today I have my Kunwu Padre out here, which is a full-size knife. I think that's going to be a great size reference here. You can see that the Slate is pretty comparable to the Padre, but the length actually matches the more medium-length Benchmade bug out. So you got the girth going on like you do with the Padre, but you have the same length here. I would say that the Padre is just slightly longer on both ends. I mean, ever so slightly, but it really lines up very well with the bug out. Let's bring out a couple more and then we'll weigh it. All right, guys, we have the QSP Vault and the Kubi Supercell out here, and it's more in line with the Supercell as far as the overall length, just a bit chunkier than both of these. I'm going to clear these out of the way. We'll grab the scale, and I am very curious to see what the weight is on this, what seems to be overbuilt folder. All right, we got the scale out and cut on. Let's check the weight on this one. I'm thinking it's going to be 4.5, maybe 5 ounces. Wow, 5.7, weighing more than even I had thought when I brought the scale out here. So I'm a little surprised at the 5.7. I thought it was going to be closer to the 5, but there are some things that do kind of make sense with that, right? You have a very big blade, very tall. It doesn't grind up very high. I think they probably could, instead of angling down, they could come straight back with that grind and make that just a little bit taller of a grind, but still keep the strength of that D2 steel with the thickness that they're running here, because it's not a super thick blade stock. I still think it would accomplish its intended purpose, which I think is going to be a little bit more hard use. You do have full steel liners on here, and you just have a lot of standoffs going here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got 5 standoffs, which means you have 10 bolts bolted just to the back of this knife alone. So I think that would help. You got a very nice pocket clip that works very, very well. I would say you probably should try to inset the screws. I don't know necessarily that those are going to get hung up or snagged, but they do stand up a little bit. So maybe if you have a little bit more tighter fitting jeans, maybe they snag. I didn't encounter that at all, and I do appreciate that it is reversible. Me personally, I would probably say just take the big standoff, move that up here, and get rid of all your other screws, and then just hike that pocket clip up on this model. I think that would be an absolute huge improvement. Let me get the scale out of here, and I'll wrap up with my final thoughts and impressions. All right, guys. Time for final thoughts and impressions. For my final thoughts and impressions, I do grade on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the worst, 10 is the best. All budget knives are capped at 7, and that's just because materials limit that from going any higher. Having said that, for this particular knife, I'm getting the sense that this is meant to be more of a hard use flexing into the tactical realm, just because of the overall thickness of it and the fact that they did a shorter grind. It's not like a very tall flat grind on here. It's almost like it's a chisel grind. The way that they built this knife, it's got a really beefy handle. Again, very tactical vibes, like you can beat on this, and the overbuilt nature is kind of reminding me of the Ontario Rat lineups, the 1 and the 2, how they're very overbuilt. They got a lot of standoffs to give it strength so that you don't have any flex when you're squeezing and beating on the knife. With that said, I am actually going to go 5.3. A few things on here for me would elevate it, but I don't want to penalize the knife for its intent, if that makes sense. So I did step back and kind of look at some things that I think for me would have made this a little bit better. One would have been the detent brake, but the detent is very well tuned, and if you can get past that detent brake, it is very satisfying to deploy. And I really do like the way that this is built. Feels very solid, and I did enjoy my time with it. Very comfortable to use, good access to the lock bar. Again, I just would like that detent to be fixed, and scale it back a little bit. If you wanted to, you could keep the larger post and just do 1 2, and then you could get rid of the other 2 screws and standoffs and move that up, and I think that would really fix it. So I did take off a little bit for those things, but really the build quality, the way that the D2 performed when I was testing it and how it behaved after I stropped it up was pretty impressive, and I do like the price points on the Molsect knives. You guys let me know what you think about all of the Molsect knives that I've recently checked out. I will definitely do my best to link some of them on the video so that you can check them out as you want to. You can go back and look at them, or you can just search my playlist for Molsect. There's a few knives out there. I do remember the Jungle, and I can't remember the other 2 that I think that I've checked out, but I really did enjoy them. I think there's a lot of potential here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them grow, and especially now that they've said that they're going to be making some revisions to their product line. I think those, if they're what I think they could be and what some of the feedback that I'm providing today is, I think that could be very positive. Anyway, I'm out of here. If you enjoyed the video, definitely hit the like. A comment would be appreciated. Affiliate links when you use them help the channel, but that's up to you. And a special thank you to my channel members. I hope each and every one of you have a fantastic week, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace.